Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the How to Define Your Digital Journey web series. Again, this series was put together by myself and Brandon Schaefer from the Simple Business Help to bring you guys real operators, real experiences, and help you identify how to apply technology to take your business to the next level. On today's episode, we're going to be covering why it's time for change, and we have a featured guest, so we're very excited to get started. Let me bring on my co-host, Brandon, who is the founder of Simple Business Help, to introduce himself. Brandon?
Hey, Brian, how are you? Thank you so much for putting this together, and thank you for running all the nuts and bolts and doing this digital transformation for us, because what we're talking about, what we're doing right now is actually digital transformation in some sense, some way, right? So I'm Brandon Schaefer. I run a business called Simple Business Help. We provide fast, friendly, reliable, remote business help to people that need it, to everyday people. So if you need help, reach out. Back to you, Brian.
Awesome. And like Brandon said, we put together this series to focus on digital transformation, not from the technology standpoint, what the applications could be or what their features are, but giving you real knowledge around the use cases on how people are using technology to hopefully help you get some insights into how you could use it in your business as well. As partner and COO here at Incipient Corp, it's our goal to help 1,500 businesses in the next 3 years reimagine their experiences and their technologies to align people, process, and technologies. So let's jump into today's episode and start understanding why it's time for change. So coming into the topic, if you didn't join us last week we covered the power of going digital. We covered what digital transformation is and what the 3 key stages are for your business. So if you did not check that out, be sure to go to our website at goincipientcorp.com/how to define your digital journey. You'll find all previous episodes, guides, and information on all of our guests, and be sure to reach out to any of them if you have questions. Leaning into today's episode, we are going to focus on specifically why it's time for change, how businesses are changing, and why are they changing, because that's the most important part. We are extremely excited to bring on Mike Desmarais from Tension Corp. He is the East Coast Regional Sales Rep. And let me bring on Mike so he can introduce himself to all of you.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Thanks, Brian, and thanks, Brandon, for inviting me. It's a real pleasure to be here this evening, so thank you again.
Of course. And Mike, it's so great to have you. Of course, we have a nice slide that explains what your company does, right? The background of the company, and of course your role, but it's always best to hear it from the guests themselves, right? So if you wouldn't mind, can you give the audience, a couple minutes of a background on yourself, how you got into sales, and of course the road that led to working with Tension Corp?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brian, for the introduction. And as I said, it's a real honor and pleasure to be here this evening. I have been in the direct marketing and print world going all the way back to the mid 90s. So I've been a sales guy to start from all the way back to starting with Jostens yearbook company in 1990. And I got into the business in the print world in 1994 as a sales rep, just trying to go out and make a living, and really just enjoyed the process and the thrill of going out and trying to help people. Because really that's what it's all about, right? Is helping people solve problems and solutions and build relationships. And I worked for Curtis and Taylor Corporation for about 20 years, and I've been with Tension Corporation now 6.5 years as a regional sales manager here on the East Coast. So it's been a great fit to be with this organization, and very proud of the history of Tension.
That's amazing. And I know, of course, the company Tension, a lot of people might not know them, but they probably received the product from them or from one of your customers, right? So when it comes to Tension, can you go into a little bit of, the history, because you guys have been around for more than a century, and just some of the products and services that you supply to your customers?
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. So Tension started way back in 1886. So hard to believe, 135-year-old company. We just celebrated our anniversary a couple months ago. So it's a fantastic history. The Berkeley family, who runs our organization, is a fourth-generation family-owned company, privately held out of Kansas City, Missouri. So to have that type of long tenure is quite amazing. You'd be shocked at the longevity of our employees. I've been here 6.5 years, and I'm by far a newbie for the most part. I have a sales force that most of them are over 18, 20, even 35 years. So that to me was a real indicator of why Tension I thought would be a great fit for me personally. And so Tension has had a long record of success. We have 7 locations across the country. As I mentioned, Kansas City is where headquarters is located. We have locations, a couple in Texas, in Iowa, Kansas, and then I manage on the East Coast in New Jersey and Pennsylvania facilities. So it's a great organization. We are the second largest envelope manufacturer in the country. Hard to believe, but people are still opening those envelopes, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. But we're the second largest, as I mentioned, and we have really, and this is why I think it's so important, is that we've really transformed our business over the last number of years to be a lot more than just an envelope manufacturer. And in today's market, when you have a digital transformation, you're doing many different things and many different touches. And it's been quite exciting to come on board and help be part of that diversification and really try to, have those solutions to meet our clients' needs across all industries.
Definitely. And I think, it's so great to have you on and, a business that's been around for so long, because as we're here talking about transformations, right, it's always both from the business side and technology. And the biggest rule and thing and myth that we always like to put in is technology is just a vehicle, right? It's not the rule. It's not going to just transform your business because you put a new product in. And businesses that have been around for as long as Tension, right, have obviously gone through multiple iterations and transformations, if you will, before the big digital buzzword, was coined. So just going in one more step deeper before we dive into more of today's topics, Mike, for those that don't fully understand, what envelopes might mean, of course, it could be direct mailing, right, and those types of services. But maybe you could just give the audience a better or tighter idea of just who some of your customers are and what kind of mailing services, what are in those envelopes that are going out.
Absolutely. So great question. So basically, we, typically when Tension started, we did a lot of transactional envelopes. So it was really for bill pay and things that were, just transactional in nature to the end user, that was very customer facing. Over time, that really has changed. Direct mail is now becoming our really not quite overtaking transactional, but it's been this big movement because direct mail is such an important part of anybody's campaign to bring in new customers, new acquisition, bring in fundraising dollars, whatever that might look like. So the envelopes has really changed in regards to the fact of what we're doing, because we're offering much more than just a standard number 10 window envelope that people just look at every day and don't even think about it. We're doing a lot of things to enhance that process from a direct mail perspective to make sure that piece gets opened. As an example, the statistics is something like people make a decision within 6.6 seconds of when they receive that direct mail piece, what they do with it. And so the key thing is we got to get the person to open it up. If you don't open up the envelope, you're never going to hear the message. You're never going to hear what that call to action might be. So not only are we handling the outside, particular envelope and variety of sizes, we're also managing that entire process of the direct mail insert. It could be a giveaway. It could be all kinds of different things. So we're managing that entire process from soup to nuts so that you can have a very complete, fulfilled direct marketing campaign. And we'll talk a little bit this evening in regards to what do you do in concert with that to help drive response rates and so forth. So that hopefully gives you a little sense in regards to all the different things that we're doing that and we actually called our initial solution Beyond the Envelope, because it was really a great segue, because it was actually one of the reasons I was brought on board because of my direct marketing experience. We want to do more than the envelope, and customers are looking for, they want to work with less partners that can handle multiple projects. So all different kind of things that can go into that particular envelope that make it exciting and to help drive the response rates for our clients. And we'll love to talk about some of those things of how that's helped with the whole transformation of technology.
Definitely. No, we'll certainly dive into it. So for anybody in the audience, right, what Mike and Tension Corp does is anybody that's working on a campaign that wants to go to direct mailing, they are your A to Z shop, right? From customizing those designs, helping drive the campaign, and bringing over 100 years of direct mailings and envelope experience to ensure that your customers or potential customers open up that envelope when it enters their mailbox. So Mike, again, it's really great to have you on. We're excited to dive in and learn more about Tension, the digital transformation, and the business transformation. So I'll start to lead us into the core topic of today's episode. And the first thing that I'd like to start us with is, what is the current state of transformation, right? So again, today's episode is, why is it time for change? Why is it time to transform? And what are the key factors or drivers that are making businesses form, whether they kind of would like to or not, right? Because at the end of the day, there's always those market forces, and they say change is either proactive or inevitable, right? You're either forced to change or you're doing it proactively to compete ahead of the curve. So starting with this first simple slide, I'm just going to put it on full screen for a brief second here as we run through it. The big joke that, in a meme that probably a lot of people have seen on LinkedIn throughout the last few months, right, is who's led your digital transformation at your company? Was it the CTO, CEO, CMO, or was it COVID, right? And as not good of as a joke it is, right, COVID has had a lot of impact to businesses that are also very positive. Right, it's accelerated a lot of consumer behaviors. It's accelerated businesses' needs or the plans that they had to do things faster. And it's become kind of an integral role to where transformation has ended up today. So focusing into what the current state is, of course, as we're leaning into what the COVID pandemic has done, right, is one of the biggest shifts is the remote work shift. Right, and the shift that continues to go. We saw Apple release their statement last week or 2 weeks ago. They're just trying to get their staff to go back 2 days a week, 3 days a week, and they still don't want to go back, right? They'd rather stay at home. So there's a lot of these behavioral things that are starting to change. And just to kind of give us a good macro view of the current state, I have some simple statistics here that will just bring clarity to where each companies are when it comes to the overall market of digital transformation. So, of course, digital transformation has always been a priority in these recent years. Many have been in the bleeding edge of it and leaning forward, and others have been trying to prepare their own strategies and determine what it means for them. But as COVID has hit, companies are now increasing their focus on what digital transformation means to them, and they're also increasing their spend and money that they're putting into this process because they understand it's the next wave of change for their business. 80% of companies right now say that they plan to accelerate their efforts due to COVID, due to the quick market changes and growing customer demands. 65% of those 80% of the businesses expect to increase the amount that they're investing despite economic uncertainty. Right. So despite orders going down, despite shipment delays or supply chain delays and other complications that have come because of the pandemic or different unforeseen circumstances, they know that digital is the next step and they're still willing to put more money there and identify other areas to pull those funds away from. And lastly, 35% of the companies view technology as a disruptive to their business models in a positive way, right? So this is not that technology is ruining their business model. It's not that it's destroying their business. It's that it's actually enabling them to either improve the way that they're currently doing business or completely reimagine it and introduce new business models altogether and capitalize on new growth. So as these companies continue to accelerate their focus, they're doing it most importantly with a clear focus, right? That is the number one thing for any digital transformation. This is not a buckshot out of a shotgun. You have to identify and isolate use cases, and the compound effect of those over time will result in an actual transformation. And most of their focuses, again, are going mainly on what is working at scale, right? The remote working at scale, cybersecurity, digital commerce, and marketing, often referred to as omnipresent, right? And lastly, process automation. These are the things that they're prioritizing in regards to what they're investing in. So Mike, of course, we want to start leading into what Tension is. A lot of people are going to say, isn't digital transformation going paper to analog? So how is an envelope company continuing to transform the way that they do things, right, and use that data to improve their business? So I'll kind of open up a brief twofold question for you. The first part of it will just be, did COVID have any impact on how you guys were perceiving your digital transformation, or was it the key driver of it? And the second one would be, just how is your business overall looking at digital transformation and the journey forward?
Yeah, great questions, Brian. And I think you nailed it when you mentioned that COVID accelerated the process. Absolutely, that's exactly what it did. A lot of the things I'll talk about, we had in the works, in plans in place to make happen, but COVID has certainly driven the way we're going to now change ourselves. And the first thing is that, we have done, on a number of different areas, we've done very, very well in regards to embracing the current situation. You have to embrace the current state, and you have to figure out a way, how are we going to do things differently and more effectively? And between the leadership within our organization, our marketing team that help promote these type of things, and just the leadership all up and down our organization, we embrace the technology, and video was the first key thing. You have to be, we're not, if someone's listening in regards to direct mail and print, it doesn't come across as the most, most technologically advanced industry. Let's be frank about that. We were very traditional in a lot of the ways we did and with the way we sold. But those things were eliminated quickly. And our company embraced technology immediately in regards to the fact of getting on this right here, get on this channel, get in front of people, make these calls. People are sitting in their offices at home. They're missing the interaction. Be the first one to reach out, bring them out of their cocoon, have discussions. And I love the transparency of video. I think it's brought a whole new level. I saw a post from a woman on LinkedIn that she said she used to spend 45 minutes a day, new haircuts, mascara, and this is the new her, which was just her just running out of the gym and bringing her kids to school. I think people that have embraced video and transparency, number one, I think that's authentic. And I think that we've done an excellent job in regards to utilizing those tools. Our social media tools to make sure that we're pushing out our brand and making these things happen. So we had to adapt quickly. And we can talk a little bit about some of the things that we're doing as an organization that kind of are all dovetailing together with our ERP and CRMs and things of that nature. But I think the key thing was that you had to find a way to be unique, different, and cutting edge. And I've loved it. I think it's a great way to create interactions. And sometimes when you're sitting at home in your home office, you're just a little more, back to the word of authentic, and getting to people's, they're a little more willing to tell you what's going on in their organizations. And it's been fun. I think that's the only way that you can look at it. And, I don't think it'll ever go back to, I think it'll go back to some level, but video is going to play a key role in every organization. If you're not adapting, you're going to struggle. And so we're looking for full adoption from our sales force. We've demanded that if you're going to be successful, how are you going to manage that process and make sure that you're comfortable in these kind of settings? Testing video, let's test something. Technology can go haywire quick. So you have to go through all these kind of processes, in my opinion, but you have to be able to be diversify in automation. And we'll talk about how we're automating our processes as an envelope manufacturer in regards to that as well, because you have to always be changing and to adapt to the needs of your clients in today's market. So hopefully that answers your question in regards to that. I'll let you stop. And I know you asked me a little bit about how business is going, so I can follow up.
Yeah, no, I think that makes, they're really great points. A lot of people don't understand, again, transformation is not really a great word because it sounds like it's a one flip of a transform and you actually change something, right? It's incremental change. And I think video and things like this is such a good point, right? Because you don't have to say, let's go replace every technology we have, right? But what are some standard things that we do? We're sales reps. We have 45 outreach calls a day. How can you start sending videos to text to personalize your outreach, right, to those people? Because you're not going to be able to go walk in an event right now and meet 20,000 people and hand out your business cards, right? So it's those incremental pivots that actually slowly transform your business and then lead to the larger changes, which can involve technology. So I think that's a really good point, Mike. And it's great to hear that. And for a second, I'll pass over to Brandon because I know he's being quiet over there for a little bit. And Brandon, I know from both of our ends, right, a lot of our work within the pandemics has been helping businesses adapt as fast as we possibly can. And like Mike touched on, so many of them went to accelerate so fast, right? At times there's only so quick you can go. So when it comes to the customers with Simple Business Help, right, and others that we communicate in our communities, where have you seen how COVID has impacted them and their overall thoughts when it comes to transforming or technology?
Oh man, well, first, before I answer that question, man, you two dress up nice. And it's a real honor to have Mike on here. I know Brian's done a great job. He puts a lot of work into these things. And to have Mike on here, I don't even want to go after Mike because he did such a good job. Mike actually dropped the mic. It's kind of a tough act to follow, you know, but I'll just talk about transformation a little bit here. And I was thinking about this earlier when I was driving, and I'm always thinking when I'm driving and I'm like, what do I want to say tonight? What point do I want to get across tonight? And the point that I want to get across tonight is those companies that do not grasp hold of digital transformation may not be here 3 to 5 years from now. That is the bottom line. We can sugarcoat it. We can talk about it. We can fluff it. We can say, no, we're going to hold off. Those companies that hold off are falling behind exponentially, like rapidly falling behind companies that are taking the first steps in the proper direction. I'm not talking about introducing AI chatbots and all types of integrations and stuff like that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm not talking about Oracle integrations. I'm not talking about Salesforce integrations. I'm talking about putting your left foot in front of your right and taking the first step in the proper direction. Failing to plan is planning to fail. Failing to plan is planning to fail. Get with your team. If you're in a leadership role, get with your team, sit down with them and say, listen, how can we get our customer information online where our customers can get the information that they want 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, right? Because customers, I know for me in my life, in my personal life and business life, I only want to deal with businesses where I can get the information online, where I can log into a portal and see what was my spend in the past month, what was my spend in the past 6 months, what's my expected spend. I don't have time to wait for a sales rep to reach back out to me. So, you know, most of this stuff is due to audits, right? There's a lot of companies, they're doing all types of audits. So all types of information is coming in. If you don't have the documents ready to go, you're reaching out, you're waiting, you're reaching out, you're waiting, you're burning time. And in today's world, we do not have time to burn. I'll end with this is the price, everything is going up in price. What we can talk about it or not on here, but I want to mention it. Coming July, coming August, coming September, every vendor that you deal with, every vendor that we're on the phone with, the prices are going up anywhere from 10 to 30% across the board. So get ready. Get ready. If you're in purchasing, get ready. If you're in selling, prepare yourself, right? Prepare yourself. And the one way to offset that as a company is to implement technology to lower cost. We're using technology to drive down cost, right? So that we can still keep a nice profit margin in there when our prices go up. Otherwise, we're just going to force our customers to pay more. We're going to provide the same services. They're going to get upset. And the cyclical round is going to occur where they start shopping and everything else like that. So just be prepared. I know I was kind of quite frank with what I said here, like either get on board or get out and then get ready for the pricing. I don't want to be too straightforward, but I feel like it's a strong point to get this conversation like kicked off. And especially, I know everyone on here will appreciate this a month from now, 2 months from now, when you go back and watch it. So
certainly, yeah, and like you said, Brandon, right? The biggest thing where companies are going is we're going to have to increase costs if we don't actually start applying technologies, because there's always that depreciation of scale, right? Mike's Tension Corp company. They do 1 billion envelopes a year, but they need a certain amount of sales reps and customer service to keep their clients happy, to custom print all of those campaigns, to design the artwork. So if they continue to do all that manually, there's going to be a diminishing return of scale, right? There's the economies of scale is going to run out. It's going to change. And I think that's such a good point to lead off on, where we can go into our next slide and we can really help businesses understand what the common barriers are that all of us experience in our businesses when it comes to trying to transform, and help them understand that you don't need to start looking at technology. You need to get all of your ducks in a row internally when it comes to your people, your processes, your existing technology, and then align that to the vision where you'd like to go. And once that is together, then you can actually start to talk about transforming. So with that, I'm just going to pull up our presentation here one more time. I'll leave it split here so we can easily see it. And Mike, we're going to run through here the common transformation barriers. Some of these might seem, obvious to you. Maybe you went through them yourselves, and maybe some are on the outliers. So what I'm going to do for us as a group is I'm going to run through each one at a time. We'll talk about each one at a time, or then all three at once, and really help the customers understand, what are the different challenges and how can they overcome them based on how, yourself, Mike, and Brandon and I, have overcome them in our businesses. So of course, the first and most outright one is just overall organizational resistance to change, right? Most often this can be that they're just not even aware of the potential opportunities. They're still on QuickBooks. They don't know what an ERP is, right? They've never heard of a CRM, or maybe they're generally aware of those things, but they're overwhelmed with all of the options and have no idea what the difference is between each one, right? So that's really the first point of where they have resistance, because there's uncertainty in where they're going to go. They're not clear on what the opportunities are. The second point is the lack of direction from leadership. This is not saying that there's bad leadership. It's just saying that maybe the CEO is a traditional CEO. Right? I don't know at Tension specifically, Mike, but we'll certainly go into it in a second. But right, some traditional CEOs have maybe been there for the 50 years that the business has been in place, or maybe they're technology savvy, but there is no CTO. There's no technical team in-house or CIO. So there's just not someone that can really take leadership and charge of the entire initiative, because it's a lot to add on top of a CEO or a CEO's plate, right? And then of course, the last one is employee pushback. And I think we touched a little bit on this in the previous episode, but Mike, just like you mentioned today, right? Organizations that have been around for 50 years, let alone, a century and a half, like Tension, right? You have great employee retention, which is beautiful, right? That's how there's great culture, a strong company of growth, but that also comes with some of its own challenges. Right now, if that company's been around for 50 years, like you mentioned, you're some of the most recent tenure there and the younger ones, but I'm sure in the next year or two, right, you'll have some college reps coming in, right, graduates, SDRs that are in the younger age that may be millennials or a little bit younger. And now you have somewhat of an employee pushback from those that were born with technology in their hand versus those that have been extremely successful building clients and pipelines all on paper. Right. So when it comes to the organizational resistance of change side, Mike, what were some of the key challenges for your business when you first started saying, guys, we really need to start making a change? What were some of the challenges that you encountered, whether it was from leadership or from the employee side?
Yeah, well, I would say that, first of all, I've been very lucky because the leadership at our organization, Tension, is they're very, very, they're supportive. B, they developed this culture because we talked about the tenure so you have people that are where we have an excellent culture to work in, but they have the foresight in regards to the fact of where do we need to go as an organization to continue to grow, to continue to get better. That's the message from leadership at our organization. And it's a consensus. It's getting everyone involved. What impact are you going to make? You feel like you're part of the organization, and that's what breeds the loyalty within the organization, in my opinion. So if you're part of the process, not everybody in the whole organization can be, but if you have leadership that are representing all the different entities within the organization are part of that process, you get consensus quickly, and you get adoption quicker. And yes. I will say that that's the one thing that Tension has done extremely, extremely well. And you mentioned about adaptation and so forth. We're developing both a new ERP system called Avante, and we're actually in the middle of a CRM integration. So we are doing both at the same time to take us to the level where we need to be. And I was fortunate in our sales group on the East Coast. We were the pilot group. We've been literally, it's been a month. It's been a month of saying, okay, team, this is what we're going to now be doing, and we need to adapt. There was no choice. I mean, sometimes you have to. You can't always have a choice, right? You need to adapt quickly and realize what this is going to do to help you be more professional, more organized, and getting more sales. Frankly, more sales calls in the course of the day. So with that integration, I talk about CRM, with Microsoft Dynamics. It's really almost I'll go back a little bit. About 2 years ago, we had a 2-second lean initiative at the organization. This is getting you an idea of how Tension's leadership thought. Was you have a 2-second lean initiative that's typically a manufacturing initiative, right? How can we do things better as an operator or as a manager of a manufacturing facility or whatever that's going to be? We had to do 2-second lean in sales. We were required to read a book. It was called by Paul Akers. Every week as a sales organization, we came to the table and every sales rep led the discussion in regards to what are you going to do better? What did you take from that chapter? What are you going to do that's going to be more efficient in the sales end of things to make you more efficient, not only just our manufacturing side of the business? I thought that was extremely innovative. And now we're implementing a CRM that is really 2-second lean in sales. Now you have one place where everything resides and now allows you, I'll use this analogy. I've been in the fundraising business for a long time in regards to doing direct mail for fundraising. You call it multi-channel approach to fundraising, right? So you need to send a direct mail piece, an email follow-up, a phone call, a text, social, whatever that's going to be. I call this multi-channel approach to selling through a CRM. So now you can have everything integrated. The marketing team can do an automated email. You can develop a drip campaign. And as Brandon has said tonight, and he said, I've seen so many of his videos, data is king. Now we have a place where this resides and everyone's involved with that. And now you have a streamlined process, because if you don't understand your data, you're just throwing something up against the wall and hoping it's going to stick. And so these are all examples in regards to the fact of, what Tension has really tried to do. And the adoption, Brian, has really been, quite easy. I mean, it's really been, if you're sitting here going, say, it's like, but again, I think COVID was just it's just kind of interesting because it just coincidentally all happened when we had these things in place. These things were planned before COVID. But I think COVID just has created this scenario of acceleration, adoption. Wow, this is a new situation. If I'm going to be successful, I got to change what I'm doing. And it just kind of all came together in that fashion. So it's really an exciting time. And it's instead of working for, every sales different way to follow up and do their things. Now it's boom, it's right here. You're going to be, and everyone's not going to, it doesn't happen overnight. It's just a process of having a pilot group. And then I guarantee within 30 to 60 days, this thing's just going to be flying. And so it's just been exciting. And so I think we've done a good job as an organization to drive that into learn, because to your last point is that you are bringing newer folks in, right? We have a little bit of an aging, not only sales force, but just, we have a long history. You got to bring in new blood. They expect technology, right? They it's just, they're used to that world. So I think it's great timing for us as an organization, but I'd say to anybody, as Brandon did, you need to, no matter who you work for, what kind of leadership you have, driving these things is so critically important for your long-term history, because again, Brandon, you mentioned you don't adopt, it's not, in today's world, it can happen, things can happen quick.
Exactly. And I think one really good thing to emphasize there, Mike, right, is the too lean approach, right? Because when it comes to the organizational resistance of change, it was usually a lack of leadership. Obviously, I was not lacking from Tension's side, but I think a really good thing to emphasize is that your organization and your leadership did a very good job of empathizing with the group, right? And helping them identify what the mission is, not from here's Dynamics, this is why we're going to use it. Here's Avantis, this is why we're going to use it, right? But they started with that business goal and essentially mission, right, of too lean. And then they conditioned everybody to say, this is what too lean means. We're all going to read a book, 1 chapter a week. We're all going to come in, and you guys might have not noticed it at that time, but that's really step 1 of your digital transformation, right? Aligning that business synergy, your business goals, and your business strategy. And once everybody's in there and contributing those ideas, now it's very easy to pipe in technology from behind to just make everything more scalable, right? So I think that was just a really good point to emphasize that from a leadership perspective, if you can find books, right, like Too Lean, like Lean Startup, where it's just the ideas of how to treat new ideas and how to be innovative without running too far and spending too much time. If you can leverage one of those books or your own mission or rules internally, it really helps give what we call like the beacon or the lighthouse, right? And it helps your company understand, where are we all heading? oh, the goal is, too lean, 2-second lean. And from there, now we understand every decision we're making to get to that goal versus we're going to apply new technology to be efficient. No kidding, but like how and what is that beacon that we're all looking for? So I think that was just something I really wanted to emphasize. And for most organizations, if you can determine what that beacon is, right? And we want to create this new vertical. We want to cut employee productivity. You want to increase it by 30% and cut all your manual CRM work down, and shave 5 hours off a week. The people can understand the mission. They can understand what things they're doing or not doing that can impact that and bring that to the table. And most importantly, that kind of gets everybody aligned before you start talking about, here's the system we're going to use. And they're upset that you're, using your third CRM as an example. When companies don't properly plan and align, it's easy to keep swapping technology. And if you are doing that, it's just because you don't have a clear enough plan and no one knows where they're going. So with that, before we go to the next point, Brandon, from your side, we deal with a lot of organizations, right? We work with a lot of people. We help consult them on just creating better awareness to where that friction is, right? So when it comes to these organizations looking to adopt, whether it's advice or things you've seen, what have been, or what do you think are some of the key challenges around that organizational resistance and how they can overcome it?
Well, how we used to do business was like running out on a boat off the coast of Mexico with one engine, right? It's a single point of failure. Everybody knows you run on that when you're in waters that don't get a lot of traffic, you always have two engines on that boat, right? That's the way we were running even up until 5 years ago. Companies were running like that, and even going back to the pharma days, we all know of a pharma sales rep when we were growing up that, mom and dad always talked about. He or she was making $750,000 a year, $850,000 a year, which is like $2-3 million a year now. But now there's no single point of failure. The success is built around the team. I say this to sales reps all the time, right? That an account is not specifically your account. And when you work at a company, an account is that business's account. If you leave, that account may go with you. There's a very strong chance today that that account is going to stay at that business. Whereas years ago, 5 or 10 years ago, people would bring their book of business from here to there to there. Today, people buy businesses. They buy into the story of the business. They buy into the ease of doing business with them. Is it easy to do business with them? Is it easy to get is it easy to get information from them? Is it fair pricing? So it's easy, fair. Easy, fair. And one sales rep can make a difference. Sales reps make a huge difference. But really, in today's world, those companies that are not adopting and adapting and transitioning and evolving to slight improvements, I'm talking about 2-degree improvements, right? Not 2-second improvement, 2-degree improvements, right? Those slight improvements. We all want to move the boulder on the hill. What I say is go and get the basketball, go to the foul line, and make the foul shot. Then once you make that, go back to the 3-point line, make that. Then go to the half court. Then move that boulder. But moving an 18-wheeler to start with isn't going to start. So start small, build out, get your confidence, and get going.
Perfect. I couldn't have said it any better myself. And like you said, it's as you get those people moving and those incremental steps, it's how you can get a lot more synergy around your teams. You don't have to give everybody a complex problem to solve. The sooner that you get all your sales staff using video and they see that they get 10% more of the customers to respond because they sent a video via text, now it's a lot easier to start convincing why you need the CRM and more steps, because everything is an incremental step compounding on the other one. So I think that's a really good thing to emphasize, Brandon, from your end. And for the next two, we'll kind of put them together as we continue to go through. So the next key barrier is existing systems and infrastructure, right? So at the end of the day, there is always something that kind of does come down to technology, right? The first point is aligning your organization and your business goals. And then the second point is if you do have technology in place, right, you're going to have to analyze those and see, are they going to stay and we're going to optimize them? Are we going to rip those out and replace, right? And some of the key barriers that come up when assessing these existing systems, and the most common one is a dependency on legacy systems, right? And Mike, maybe you might be able to talk to this because tension's been around for a very long time. So a lot of companies, right, if they adopted technology 10 to 15 years ago, even 8 to 10 years ago, they may have what we call an on-prem solution. For those that don't know what it just means their data is not in the cloud. It's only on their internal network at that organization. Most of them have it secured by a VPN, so you have to VPN in. So you can't just open up your iPhone, go to Outlook or SharePoint and see all your files. So the dependency on those systems can create a barrier because it can be hard to customize them or integrate new technologies into them because they don't have cloud APIs or ways to share information between the applications easily. Another factor around the existing systems and infrastructure is just a lack of in-house talent. Again, this is not a dig against the businesses. A lot of businesses, weren't built to create an entire IT department within them, especially when they started maybe with traditional print, right? But as technology has continued to evolve, there's been networking specialists. But if you do not have any of these people on your team, it kind of goes back to the first point where you don't have somebody that can drive it. And in the second point, you don't have somebody that can physically execute the work, customize those existing systems, or go suggest technology for you. So Mike, as tension's been moving, right, as you mentioned, you're moving to Dynamics, right? You're moving to Avantis for the ERP side of things. What were some of your previous systems, if you had any, and did you guys face any challenges with kind of customizing those, or did you just choose to fully replace them and go to the two new solutions? Oh, we might have lost your mic.
Yeah, I think he's on mute, Mike. Yeah. Keep going.
Yep, no worries. I think it might just be his AirPods, so he'll switch those out.
Yeah.
Let me see. Give him a second.
No, not yet.
Is that better?
Yeah, here we go. It's a digital transformation. We just transformed right there.
Yeah, exactly. This has happened before, as you probably can well see, but sorry about that. But so to answer your question in regards to, we had some systems, Brian, that were a little antiquated. Frankly, we just needed to have an overhaul. There were some limitations. With 7 facilities across the country, you want to be able to be fully integrated. So these changes were, in some cases, they just needed to have happen. We had a CRM a little before that I came on board about 6.5 years ago, but it really wasn't a CRM. It was just more of a place that housed data, and it wasn't, it had some limitations. So really, we just decided that, it made sense. We have a full IT team on staff that does an excellent job in integrating all these things, as both of you can certainly understand, is that making sure that they're part of that whole, conduit of making all these systems work together. And so we were just in a position where we just knew that we needed some changes, and we needed to accelerate in regards to the fact of how we go to market on the sales side. And we just didn't have, getting information as a sales manager wasn't easy. It just was a more difficult process. It was quite manual and things of that nature. So again, we just knew we did the right thing in regards to making sure we get the right system in place for our organization. I will tell you, I've been at other organizations where they spent millions of dollars for a solution, and you probably can relate to this, because it happens, 18 months later, it's not the right system. We got to start over again. So there's something to be said to be patient in getting, knowing that it's going to be the right way and roll it out correctly. I mean, I think that's critical in regards to any of when you transform, you need to roll it out correctly. So we had, as an example, being on the CRM, they put together a pilot team. One of the sales reps from my team was part of that process, which I thought was phenomenal. He was technology savvy. He loved it, and it was a great way for him to give feedback. And then it rolled out to us. So again, we did the right things in regards to making sure that these things work. Because the last thing you want to do is roll something out and it just doesn't fulfill the needs of what we want to do. And so across the board, knock on wood, it's all really, there's a lot of great synergy. It's going well together. And, as Brandon said, you have to jump on board. You have to get on the wagon. And sometimes you got to pull a little bit harder, but ultimately, everyone sees the value in that if you, again, do it the right way and show and demonstrate how that's going to be. You're going to be much more effective. And it goes back to the 2-second lean, which I thought, Brian, you did a really nice job of, really that whole, how that process all worked and kind of set us up for the data transformation, because that broke down barriers. It's not just a manufacturing situation. It's not a them versus us. You can get into an organization, and salespeople can be a little bit difficult. We're not the easiest group in the world, but it broke down barriers for production, operators, administrators, how they got to handle. And once you have you've developed that empathy in regards to the fact of, oh, that's how that works. That's why I need to fill that out or complete this. That just helps the process, and we're all going in the same direction together. Because if you have that, you're halfway there right off the bat. So yeah, it was just time for us to make some adaptations and changes, and just pulled it together in a really smooth fashion.
Yeah, and that's amazing. Of course, Tension size and their history. It's beautiful that you guys have that IT team in house, right? That can, of course, bring that synergy in while communicating with the other departments and do things in a lean fashion where people can start to pilot and see results and get that momentum building. A small note, for any of the smaller businesses that, of course, do not have, the in-house side of the shop. There are a million technology companies out there. The key thing that you want to look for is you really want to find an IT partner. You want to focus on somebody that has not only the technology skill set, meaning they're a Microsoft partner on Dynamics or they've worked on Avantis, right? But they should have domain expertise as well. So they should be from manufacturing if that's where your help is. If you need them on the consumer side, they should have a lot of experience there. And I think, Brandon, from your end, right, on our last call, we were diving into some of this. But what are some of the other key ways that businesses can just get started if they don't have the technology people in-house themselves?
Oh, man, it just comes to most people are reactive people, right? So it only takes a handful. If you look at an organization, there's probably 10 to 20% that are really doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And not to say that the other 80% aren't. It's just those 10 or 20% are really pushing the edge and giving. I talk about this all the time, like giving everything you have, giving all of your ideas, not being fearful that if you mention an idea that you're going to get fired. In sales, a lot of times you would think sales and marketing are aligned very closely. Unfortunately, sales and marketing sometimes are the biggest two competitors because marketing's funneling sales. Marketing is saying sales isn't closing what we're giving you. Sales is saying the marketing stuff that they're giving us is junk. So this is where digital transformation comes in, right? And I'll say this, and I'm glad Mike said this. This is why you need data or however the freak you say it, whatever it is, however you feel like saying it that day. I don't know the right or wrong way to say it. This is why the data always determines the outcome, right? When marketing says we delivered 50 people for sales to talk to, and sales said every single one of those were crap, but then we look at what actually closed versus what marketing gave us, and we see it was $750,000 of marketing leads. That presents an opportunity to transform the marketing team to do more, because we know that their effort that they put in yielded $750,000. If we do more of that, it's probably going to double or replicate or rinse and repeat and continue to move forward. So you always have to use the information that you have. It's just like we're not going to make a financial decision based upon our heart, right? It's just not the proper thing to do. What we do is we look at the numbers and say, where are our biggest growth points? Which products, which services deliver us the most revenue, right? Which ones can we do in our sleep and still provide high quality? What other products can we bring on in addition to our core products to fill the gaps? So yeah, I'm not going to go too far, but yeah, that I'll end with that, Brian. I'll hand it back to you on that. I don't want to go too deep into the woods.
But I gotta just say one thing, because I just can't agree with Brandon more in regards to the fact of synergy with sales and marketing. In fact, I invite marketing to as many of my calls when it's appropriate as we can. They love it. They want to be in front of a client. They want to see what the sales call looks like. I want them to support us in working together. They do. Our team just does a phenomenal job in making us look good with social media. They're the ones that do the case studies. They're the ones that are helping us. And if you got to be working together and involve them. You know what? When you're calling on the buyers and things of that nature, they love seeing a marketing person. It's a different perspective. The marketers are sometimes better at talking about the big picture than we are, because we're just so focused on closing the deal and moving it forward. Open discussion. So just on that point, Brandon, I thought it was important. Is that synergy is so important in regards to any company. Really, their long-term success is work together and have some fun with it, because it's really, you work together, you're going to be head and shoulders above most organizations.
100%.
Certainly. And Mike, you kind of led us right into the last one. I think we've kind of been talking about this point as we've moved along here passively, because of course it relates to the first two. But at the end of the day, right, it's that alignment of IT and business strategy, which is not just on paper, it's with your people as well, right? So just like we talked about the sales and the marketing people, you have to have a strategy to bring those people together. And most commonly, businesses face a challenge or a barrier here because they either lack a digital strategy for their business entirely, or they have it isolated, from their actual business strategy. So you have two strategies running in parallel. And as much as people think they run in parallel, they actually run like this, right? They run away from each other the further that you go, because there's not that Bible of expectations, as we like to call it. The same thing is they're not able to weigh the risks and the opportunities. Right? You guys have an IT team in-house. You have seasoned sales reps and marketing people that can weigh the opportunities of, should we spend more here or do more there? But if, again, you don't have that awareness to this information, it's hard to weigh the pros and cons and identify what are the best systems and strategies for you. So I think really piggybacking off what we talked about, like we hit the 2-second rule, but when it just comes to yourself and your team, right, and the strategies that you're running that are of course part of the bigger picture, but are accountable just to you and your group, how do you go about aligning, the business strategy with them and whatever needs they need to do to participate, on the technology side or execute that strategy?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, to me, is you've got to build a team, and to me, you have to be. I think one of the key things I wrote down here is communication with your team, with the people that you work with. That needs to be clear. If you have that on the table and everyone knows where they stand and what the organization is doing and those kind of things, I think one of relationships. Your family, business, if you don't communicate well, you're already again a step behind. So the better that you are at communicating what the vision is and doing a good job of, if I'm getting it from a certain level and doing a good job of following through on that. I have some great people I work for, some great people that are very clear with me. They're very open with me, and that transcends itself. And that's again why I'm so passionate about where I work, because the fact is, open book. Here's where we're going, in allow for the discussion. It's not just this is the way it's going to go, but ultimately it might be. But you have to have a reason why you're doing it, and if you're doing it the right way, people are going to be on board. So I think that's key. I think that it's the follow through. I think of if you're going to say you're going to do something, you got to do it, and I think that that's absolutely critical in regards to the success of any organization. Is that you're going to follow through on what you say you're going to do. And, we're in a situation where we talk about digital transformation. I mean, I was frankly brought on to Tension purposely because I wasn't an envelope guy or gal. I was brought on because I was a direct marketing person who would come into the organization and help us grow in new spaces. So it's been great because, you could be successful selling one or two items, or you could be even more successful by bringing the whole gamut of our solutions, selling an online solution, moving people to a digital environment in regards to the fact of mailing less, but more personalized in certain campaigns. Whatever that might look like, getting into additional things that might be in that direct mail piece, a Post-it note. So my point is, we have a whole myriad of products to offer, but it's understanding and helping the team understand in this industry, at this level, in this department, what's the solution that's going to be the best fit, and asking those right questions to identify it and things of that nature. Because right now we have a grid of 12 different, 15 different products that you potentially could be selling, but that's the mindset isn't the product, it's getting into the client and asking the right questions to identify what their need is, and then coming in with a solution. I think too often, we try to lead with something versus you need to lead with questions and understand your business, what's working well. I mean, that's sales 101, right? But I mean, I think there's just still that whole process of working together and having that synergy. But it still comes down to, how do you communicate with your team and engage in what the expectations are. There are expectations, right? I mean, there are certain things that you're required to do in your position, and those things are made. But as long as you're doing it in the right way, you should have, in most cases, pretty full adoption.
Yeah.
So,
and like you were saying, I think communication is key. It's easy to say, communicate clearly. I think what's important to touch on is a digital transformation, especially when you start, there's going to be a lot of gray. Right. And that's why communication is important. And it's okay to not know exactly what you're talking about, but you should communicate that to the team. Right. I don't know how we're going to fix this,
absolutely.
But we should. Right. And then when there is more uncertainty, a really good way is you don't have to keep having 5-hour meetings, right, on how you're going to do it, but increase your frequency and have shorter meetings and give people key takeaways. All right, you go look into these options. You go look into this. How could we scale that? Are there any solutions? And then when you have those micro meetings, and you're giving people accountability in that process, again, it just adds into that momentum, makes them accountable. And I think most importantly, like you said, Mike, as the leader of the charge, you got to be showing them that you're doing just as much, if not more, to be driving that process if you want them to jump on that train with you and really push it home.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's well said, Brian. And to me, you have to lead, but you also have to be involved and do the same things and not just throw it onto somebody else. I don't think that works well. And I think you've kind of nailed it with that comment.
Definitely. And Brandon, I think I'll save you from the alignment of the IT and the business because we covered it pretty in depth last week. So I won't make us repeat ourselves too much there. If anybody else wants to dive into more of what that was, be sure to check out episode 1, The Power of Going Digital. But really leaning into the second half of the series, we're really diving in deep today, just hitting an hour now. We're just halfway through, so hang in there with us. The biggest thing, like we were saying, Mike, once they overcome those barriers, we've kind of had this as the undertone of our entire conversation. But in order to be successful in any transformation, you're going to need to create that cultural mindset for change. You're going to need to bring everybody on board. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to align people, processes, and last but not least, of course, technology, but it should go in that order, right? So with us today, I just had a simple quote that kind of really shows a mantra of one particular business and a CEO that we've worked with that just mentioned, how he communicated the vision to his entire employees in an email. And this was in it to start off what they were aiming to focus on. So it just said, we must shed the decades old, we've always done it this way attitude, right? No matter who you are in the company, how long you've been there, and most importantly, how successful the company is, you have to shed that attitude and start rethinking about how you can engage your customers digitally and start focusing on how you can better empower your employees, right? So this is just a little quote and a caption around the mindset. It really piggybacks off of everything we said in the previous slide, so we won't dive too deep here. But again, I wanted just to reiterate this before we go into the core part of today's episode, which is going to be the 4 key drivers of digital transformation and of change, right? So starting here, this is a brief recap. The 4 core drivers that are creating every business, your competitors, and anybody else to change or begin their journeys. The first one is connectivity, accessibility, and mobility. The second one is growing customer demands, which we've been touching on here and there today so far. The third one is empowering your employees. And of course, last but not least, is digital innovation and finding new ways to reinvent your business. So jumping primarily right into the first topic, connectivity and accessibility, mobility, it all comes down to data. Data, however we all like to say it, as Brandon said, it all comes down to the central source of data, and so does every single transformation. Just like we talked about last week, this is more of the digitalization phase. It's getting every digital or analog asset and having it be a digital asset so you can freely share that information across your organization. Most importantly, the connectivity point focuses on making sure that your data is connected across the organization. That data is not hidden with the warehouse team, and then the sales team has their data and it doesn't even match, right? Accessibility is ensuring that everybody has access that should have access. right? So sales, again, communicates with the warehouse, let them have access to the data like lead time, shipment tracking, et cetera, so that they don't need to call the warehouse and ask for that information. And mobility is pretty straightforward, but it's the number one most important thing for companies now, especially with the growth of remote work. And it's just enabling that your data is available to all of your employees on any device at any time, no matter where they are, right? So from your field sales guys to needing to answer an email on the road or pull up a file to send a contract, they should be able to do it on a computer, laptop, iPad, or iPhone. And most importantly, around this area is, right, we've kind of touched on how the workforces are changing. There's a lot more technology savvy or younger individuals coming into companies. So a lot of organizations have seen the benefits, right, of going lean and getting all these digital assets. And some of the key operational inefficiencies that you can remove with some of the most simple workflows, right, and changes to your processes, not reinventing the business, right? It's just undefined processes and workflows, right? Not having the exact procedure, like you said, Mike. Every sales rep is running a different cadence out to 3 different industries. So you really need to determine those workflows. The second thing is extensive manual or repetitive tasks, right? Again, when things are unclear, you tend to do things twice, or you tend to not be able to find a file. And you're just losing countless minutes across a day, which add up to hours, and across weeks, continue to add up, especially when you multiply it across all of your employees. The constant communication is kind of related to the manual tasks, whether they're double entering data or they're calling employees for updates or messaging them multiple times, right? The number one killer of employee productivity is distractions, whether it's social media or their employees pinging them in the team chat every 30 seconds for information. And last but not least is data department or single solution silos. So super straightforward. There's 3 ways to talk about it, but essentially all it means is that if your sales team's using a CRM, the WMS is on the back end, your finance team is using QuickBooks, but none of that's together, you've accidentally created data silos or department silos because you've given each organization element its own solution, but none of them talk to each other, right? So by really centralizing this data and making some marginal improvements, this enables smaller businesses, right, not in the Fortune 100, to really compete because you're able to do so much more with so much less and utilize all that time that you were losing to reinvest into new growth opportunities. So Mike, I know we've been touching on it a bit, right? You said multiple channel segments. Other people also referring to it, as omnipresent now, right? Making sure that you're on all of these channels. So when it comes to your guys' digital transformation now, what were some of the key priorities when it came to data and ensuring that it could be shared across the teams?
Well, one of the key things was that you're exactly right. Everyone was, from a sales perspective, it was very siloed. So here's one quick example is that we have 5 different regions. So there's 5 of me as an example that are managing the sales forces across the country. You're very siloed in your data. You didn't know what the other manager might be managing. You might know at a high level, but you didn't know the details. Another example is we have a strategic account team. So there's 3 of them across the country that manage just large accounts that have multiple locations, right? So now if they sell a solution, we bring in multiple sales reps to help manage the different locations across the country. We weren't doing a very good job of that communication, somewhat limited because of this example that everyone had their data resided. Some people had it in an Outlook. Some people had an Excel spreadsheet. Some people forgot to put it on their monthly review, whatever that's going to be. So you had this breakdown. And I can remember being in meetings and being like, oh, well, someone would bring up an accountant. No one knew about it. And, oh, I know somebody there. I mean, that was just a symptom of just data being in various places. So now that we have a CRM in place, all that's there. Everyone has access. I mean, certainly there's different privileges in regards to what people can see or what have you, and all those kind of things from a privacy perspective. But the bottom line is that now everybody from the top of the organization down can see everything that's going on. And it's not Big Brother. It's just, how can we do a better job of managing an opportunity? Who could we bring in that's a resident expert on X? Who could be, there's a rep that lives an hour and a half away from that location. Maybe they could come in and help support that. It's just broken down barriers in regards to the fact of, again, back to communicating effectively with data. Data's king. And I'm just going to steal Brandon's comment. I mean, data is king, and no matter what you do, and the fact of now you can integrate with marketing in regards to a drip campaign or a marketing campaign with automated emails or whatever that's going to be. And we as an organization and my team, what's nice, the organization allows you the flexibility as a manager to do what you think is going to do to help drive business. So we can become more creative in regards to the fact of, let's do a campaign around this initiative. We're into data. We actually manage data in regards to helping nonprofits on their matching gift programs. So we pick a certain time of the year when budgets are coming up for review and doing a campaign revolving around that to drive that situation, or drive right now. We're focused on new envelope ideas to drive direct mail that's going to hit big time come the fall, because the summer is going to be a slowdown of planning. So you need to be ahead of that, and so all this information allows you to break it out by industry, break it out by, department, break it out. And now I can really be more consultative and helpful at just a quick glance at a CRM versus, oh, John's on this and Melissa's on this. And it was just more complicated. So it's just really streamlining the entire process. But most importantly is an organization. So now we can talk better about, oh, hey, Brandon's calling on this insurance company in Philadelphia that's very similar to the one in Dallas, Texas. And what are you doing there? That's, it just creates more conversation, more excitement, more ideas. So it's just across the board. It just goes back to the fact of better synergy, better communication, and we're just more aligned in regards to what we're doing across all the different regions within the organization.
Exactly. I think a really clear point that you made, Mike, right, is the end result is obviously better communication, right? But essentially what this data being shared across is it creates transparency across the organization. So while a lot of people think the data just helps, organize things, do processes better, humans' brains are always moving. So when there's transparency, it's easy for someone to say, oh, I saw Mike was working with American Express, but then 2 days later that rep sees, or it's a marketing guy that sees an ad for a different company that sparks an idea for a campaign he could run with you, right? But if he had never known you were working that client and he'd never accidentally read that part, I just lost a light here, and he never read that part. We're going green in the office. We have motion sensors. And if they never saw that, right, we process so much subconsciously. So you're missing so many opportunities by not having that transparency, let alone obviously the clear benefit of improving communication. But a lot of people miss that, just because your business is running perfect on paper or even in the systems, the more transparency you give, the more idea generation that just comes to your organization naturally, and opportunities just start to form. And I think go ahead, Mike.
No, just the other last thing that I failed to mention, just as in regards to we're on video, right? So Microsoft Teams is now where we live by and large. So now I want to be in one place and do it all, right? So now we can. You got Microsoft Dynamics that's tied to Teams, that's tied to your Microsoft Outlook, SharePoint, whatever that. So it's all right there, all in one place. And now you can chat here, you can send them. So it is so critically important, and it's just been tying that video in. Literally, it's one of the things that I mentioned on the CRM is, it was like, how does the client prefer to be communicated with? And it was phone, email, but I'm like, we need video, because I have some clients, we just video. There's no phone calls. It's now the cell phone, which we loved. I just let's stick right here and just do the video thing. So that's again a transformation that I think is really happening, and that this is my preferred now, and it's just full adoption and jumping in.
100%. And Brandon, I know you're the data king, right? So from the sales side and the connectivity, we did cover it a little bit last week. But what is some of the key elements on how these businesses to communicate the importance of connecting this data and the transparency in their organization to drive them to the next level of their business?
Mike mentioned so many good things, man. The one, I have a lot of takeaways. I'm not writing down stuff. I'm actually holding a mic, so I'm not able to write anything, but I'll go back and watch this. But I heard the keyword identification, and companies spend millions, and I would say billions of dollars combined gathering information. And what drives me totally insane is they do nothing with it, or they do very little with it. with digital transformation, you're going to gather the information. I am Brandon. I love the beach. I don't like skiing, right? I actually do like skiing and I do love the beach, but I'm just giving you a scenario here. I love the beach. I don't ski. So when I open up my mailbox and I have a postcard or some piece of a piece of marketing material or anything else like that, and it has a beach, you're already 80% higher retention rate with me, right? I'm naturally going to flip it over. And my neighbor, she loves skiing. When she opens up her mailbox, she has a Stowe, Vermont ski piece on it. That's using the information that you gather. Unfortunately, we spend a ton of money on gathering information because we think that's what we're supposed to do, because that's what Johnny's company is doing. That's what Sally's company is doing. And that's what we've been told to do. Information is going to do everything. Now we have the information. This is one of the most important things that anybody that's going to be watching this recording, if you're a small business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a startup founder, you can smoke a big company right out of the gate. And I'm telling you, I get goosebumps when I talk about this. If you are savvy and you use the information that you have to increase awareness, to educate, and then quickly put the next logical call to action in front of them, the next logical step, you will outsell a big company 10-1 with ease. And everybody on here is going to say it's the same. It is amazing. You see these small tech companies, right, that just deliver superior service. Everything that you went over on the slide before, they get in there and they just provide such a compelling experience and such an ease of use experience to do it. And I'll just share one company that really does a great job. And I'm not into crypto. I'm not into stock or anything else like that. Go and register for Coinbase, right? Watch their onboarding process versus a normal bank. The normal bank is like, come into the bank, have you sign this, bring your wife. You go on to Coinbase, that is a flawless roadmap. It's like I'm on ice, and next thing I know, I'm depositing money. That is a company that runs on information. I'm telling you, some of these smaller companies grow like boom, like a rocket ship, man. But I don't know if we're gonna have time tonight to get through everything, Brian. As we're on this pace, we might have to do a version 2.
Yeah, I mean, we could keep pacing. We're about 3 slides left, so it's up to you.
Okay, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, but I think you led right into the next point anyway, right, Brandon? Which at the end of the day, this data helps us personalize consumer experiences and capitalize on their growing demands, right? So at the end of the day, consumers are now connected and empowered by the digital age more than ever before, and they expect businesses to maintain that same level of support and meet them on whatever channel at whatever time they appear there, right? The majority of these changes, of course, were driven by COVID. Before COVID were mobile devices and social media, right? They've made things super relevant in the palm of our hands. We're able to find new products, but we want to be able to go and purchase them immediately, right? And of course, COVID just drove the consumer behavior side of things and making everybody comfortable with ordering everything online. So I think an extremely good point that you just made, Brandon, that we're really going to hit deeper here is, there's not really brand loyalty anymore or customer loyalty to specific brands. And here's just 3 super quick statistics that can help, embody that a bit more. 73% of consumers prefer to do business with brands that personalize their shopping experiences. Because of Amazon and them suggesting new items on their homepage every time, if you go to an e-commerce store and you have to search for the men's section just to find the shirts and they're not on the homepage, right? A lot of customers are upset with those extra 2 to 3 clicks, and they'll choose a different brand instead of dealing with those friction points. 70% of customers said that new technologies have made it easier for them to take their business elsewhere. So again, take their business elsewhere because they prefer the technology in those experiences, the seamlessness of it, right? Brandon just mentioned Coinbase. There's about 7 other crypto trading apps that are out there, but Coinbase emerged because every other user experience was so clunky. So it's a really big point where if you just start to build that experience, you focus on one niche, you can really start to pull customers from your competitors and gain market share pretty quickly. And the last one is that 57% of customers said it's absolutely critical or very important for companies that they purchase from to be innovative, right? Everybody wants to feel that each time they went to your site, something new is there. Something new is in their customer experience. They received a new touch point. They don't care if it's automated. They just want to make sure that whatever your experience feels like the best experience they had somewhere else. So again, the emphasis that we want to make here that's really changed in consumer trends is there's not brand loyalty anymore to the degree that there used to be. Yes, companies like Apple have it, right? But when it comes to apparel, printing, manufacturing, consumer good products, you have to understand there's more companies than ever before delivering the same services. And at the end of the day, the only way you're going to win and acquire new customers is by having a much better user and customer experience from them. If we think hotels, car rides, food delivery, aka Trivago, Uber, right, and Postmates, most customers do not care what hotel they're staying in, right, as long as it's all 4 stars and there's 4 options. They don't care what car they're getting into, if it's an SUV or a sedan, and they don't care what pizza place they ordered from. They're all prioritizing price, time to delivery, and then the overall product and service. And it's only when that service or product is so poor that the other 2 fall to the wayside. So Brandon, kind of piggybacking off of what you were just mentioning, let's kind of continue on that thread, and just how have you seen the shifts from marketing, and where do you think smaller businesses again have the big opportunity to acquire new customers? What do they have to do to get and capitalize on those opportunities?
I think it's a good idea for smaller businesses to partner with an Incipient or Attention in the beginning to use, so they come up with the concept of what they want to do, but obviously they don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the people power to get the jobs done. So I think it's very, very important that as a small company, if you have big aspirations, that you try not to do everything yourself and you utilize your relationships, just like we're on here together tonight, boys. And we're on here tonight. We're going to form new relationships, due to this, and you form partnerships. And the only way you do that is by talking to people for a while. Mike and I have talked to each other, probably bounced stuff off for a year now, right? And this is the first of many conversations. We chatted a couple times before in the lead up to this conversation here, but just utilize the companies that are doing it properly and giving you a fair price to get it. Like if you need direct marketing material or anything else, or you want sequences or anything else like that, or anything to do with marketing, reach out to Mike. He has the resources, right? You're a small business owner. If you need IT help or anything else like that, or there's a project or something you want to do, reach out to Incipient, right? That you don't need to you don't need to recreate the wheel here. What you need to do is use the spoke to get to where you want to go. So that's it. I'll pass it back to you on that, bro.
100%, Brandon. I think that was very well said. And like, of course, we kind of touched on softly, how you're looking to address new customers, but what are some of the new demands that you've seen from your customers? Like you said, if it's the way they prefer to communicate, what are some other things that have changed, traditionally from what your processes or customer experiences used to be?
Well, it's really changing all the time, and I'll go back to a couple of points, and you guys have brought up some excellent discussion here. I think with your clients, number one is you want to develop as much of a personalized experience as you can, and I appreciate the comments, Brandon, in regards to reaching out. What we try to do is sit down and understand what your needs, do a needs analysis, right, in regards to what you're trying to accomplish. What's the goal? What's the real objective here? The way our business has changed is because we can really adapt to exactly what those potential needs might be. Maybe it's a long run opportunity where you just want to get a message out to literally millions of people. I mean, we're doing things that are that large. And then at some point you need to personalize that experience. So it becomes to Brandon's point, if I'm a skier, I don't want the beach, message, and vice versa. Data allows you to do so many things unique and differently and incorporate the longer run with the shorter run personalized experience, because most people have the data. They just don't know really how to, get that out of their database and into a print format, or how to come up with an idea to message that, because that's the key. Because still today, 42% of recipients still read their direct mail. I mean, they still look at the piece that come in. There's actually been less competition at the mailbox because of COVID. Now it's starting to open up and we're seeing a lot more direct mail. So direct mail is still a key driver in regards to getting that message. You have to open up that direct mail piece. Now you want to do other things, an email follow-up or things of that nature. And I haven't even talked about the fact of driving somebody to a personalized landing page. There's expectations in today's world that you need to be personalized with me or I'm going to move on. Because people know that information is out there. You know, in a quick of a switch, you can find out where someone lives, what their interests are, things of that nature. I can do a social media search, right? And do an algorithm in regards to that. So there is an expectation that you should know who I am to some level. And so that can really, that's the key thing of really personalizing that experience for your client and making sure that you're giving them the right solutions, because it could be many different things. It's just a matter of the fact of understanding what's worked and hasn't worked, and making that a very, what I would say, a multi-channel solution for that individual client to help them get the best results, because you have to be doing unique things in testing and what have you. And I could go into, results and things of that nature, but at a high level, I think that's what's critically important, is knowing that there's solutions out there to meet those personalized demands and to be successful.
Definitely. I think that's really the key point, right? Taking the data from the first step, and customers now with these growing demands, they're fine with automation, they're fine with being at steps, but it has to be personalized. So you can't just throw out a million emails to every vertical with the same messaging, or they'll turn off and never open up an email from you again. So really, for anyone that's looking to capitalize on those growing customer demands, keep it simple, find your first niche, personalize that data, really understand the messaging to them. And once you've successfully done that, you'll be able to rinse and repeat at scale, leveraging technology. So that'll move us straight into the third driver of change, which is empowering employees. We've kind of been touching on this a bit as we've moved through today, but of course, the main thing here is you need to empower your employees with the right tools and communication channels to provide valuable insights, which will always result in increased productivity and improved cost control. Right. I think a big point of what people miss is you can also increase, productivity, but by empowering your employees, they'll know that that whole customer segment doesn't like the beach, so that you don't send out 100,000 mailers to the wrong demographic, which costs $10,000 and you've just wasted it. Right. So a second part on, who employees are in the IT space, we often refer to them as the business users, right? They are usually the end users of the entire system. They're the soldiers pushing the work, and they're the ones running those business processes on a daily basis, outside of course, the C level that's driving the vision, right? But it's very important to get in and go down to that nitty-gritty level and get those insights from them, because that's where you're really going to feel that incremental change. And I think a big misconception of what a lot of people have is that employees are scared of technology, that they're scared of automation, that they're scared of being replaced. Initially, yes, that was a trend around a year ago where people didn't fully comprehend where robotics are going, right? What the next things are going to be and exactly how fast they'll be here, right? But now everybody's starting to understand that there's human elements to sales, to healthcare, to patient care, right, to telecommunications, to manufacturing, to any aspect of the business, that technology is not going to be replacing anytime soon. It's just going to help you empower them. So some key statistics just to show that, employees are really actually more of the drivers of technology and people that you should be going to in your business, is just a basic survey from Smartsheets. And over 40% of the workers surveyed say that they lose at least a quarter of their work week on repetitive tasks. That's 10 hours a week on a normal work week, right? Nearly 70% of those workers say that the biggest opportunity for automation lies in reducing time wasted on repetitive work, running marketing cadence, sending manual emails, sending calls, right? Not pre-qualifying, asking for updates. All of these things lose 10 to 15 minutes throughout the days, but they happen 15 to 20 times, and it compounds extremely quickly. And lastly, nearly 60% of them estimate that they could save 6 or more hours a week with automation. So kind of relating to the first point, automation does not mean, having robots flying around your warehouse. It can be as simply as just having a predetermined workflow in your CRM that automates as soon as Brian, says this deal is closed from his side or ready for a proposal. I move it to generate proposal. That goes up to Mike, right, who is my superior, who oversees all the terms that I've quoted out, approves that proposal before I send the client. But when he drags it to the next stage, it automatically sends it to the client, right? That process can typically take 10 to 15 minutes. If Mike and I were talking via email, Mike's in charge of 20 X amount, maybe more plus reps. So imagine that happening 20 times a day. it compounds extremely quickly. So really the emphasis around empowering your employees is to get those insights from them, identify those incremental changes and ways to improve and empower them with tools and automation. And really it's going to convert into increased productivity, employee satisfaction, and better cost control. Because if you just think 6 hours a week at $25 an hour, which is around $45,000, $50,000 a year base salary, right? It equals around $8,000 a year in waste just going to that one task. And that's just the one employee at an organization with 900 employees or even 10, it adds up very quickly. So Mike, I know we've touched on it a bit, but what were some of the clear points that some of your employees, beneath you, right, on your team had brought up that maybe were small incremental changes, but really contributed to the transformation that you guys are going through currently in regards to dynamics?
Yeah, I think it's a number of different things, Brian, but I think it actually does go back to that 2-second lean process, because it made our team think differently. Because at first there was resistance. We're going to read 2-second lean, and I'm going to lead the discussion on a chapter. And we're going to sit, and do this and this was really before video. Not the video didn't exist, but people weren't using video. So I think that there was definitely some resistance of like, I'm going to lead a chapter on 2-second lean to my colleagues. That was uncomfortable. That was uncomfortable for a sales rep that's just managing their accounts and they're not used to, that now it becomes peer pressure and how am I going to look in front of my reps? And to me was walking through the process, coaching them through that and say, this is what we're not trying to set you up to fail. We don't want you to feel it's okay to be uncomfortable though. And I think there's an important point in sales in general. If you get too comfortable, that's a problem. And that's in any organization, you always have to be, it's pushing people. And if you're uncomfortable, you're going to be more successful, get you out of your comfort zone. So at first, when I was thinking about the 2-second lean, I'm like, really, how's this going to apply? I wasn't 100% sold at first, but then I'm like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. And that was the first step of adapting and pushing people out of their comfort zone and relating to if I put simple things. If I put my phone in my coffee maker here, so I'm not taking 30 seconds here, 1 minute here, it just brought home that point of how that stuff adds up. And that now you're becoming that. If you say 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, that's 2 or 3. That's a couple calls. That could be How many more sales can that relate to when you over 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day? So that was the first, really, Brian, I saw as the first way how we adapted and got the consensus of like, okay, yeah, I could be doing this better. And hey, Scott's doing this way and John's doing it this way. And I learned something from Mike. That's the goal. How you have 6 different people that are siloed. We're not all in the same sales office. So if you can pick something up from your peers, and then that creates conversations where like you end up calling Brandon and go, Brandon, that was a great idea. I hadn't thought about that. We want to help each other. We don't want to compete against each other. Of course, it's a sales chart and all those kind of things, but we ultimately want to help each other as an organization because we want to see us all be successful. That's what most people are. That's where they come from. And it creates just some more, just camaraderie within your organization. So that was really where I think it really started. And then it's, it's shifting to all that the point you made on the slide is that, the automation is just taking it to a new level in regards to the fact of you're not saving 15 minutes a day. You're going to be saving literally 45 minutes a day at first in regards to what you're doing and looking up a sent email, that quote's over here. And now it's right there. Boom. So it's just, again, if you do it the right way, communicating, bringing the team together, share with them what the goal is ultimately trying to be. Most people trust you. They do. And we have the culture where people have been around for a long time. There's no secrets. It's like, this is what you need to do. Let's go make it happen. But you got to make the numbers, right? You got to be successful. So that's what every organization is trying to do. And I think there's a good way to do it, is building that team together. So those are some of the key things that we faced.
Yeah, as you guys are introducing the CRM, like you're saying, probably 45 minutes. Do you think your sales reps are probably saving like that average of 6 hours a week, maybe by the end of the implementation, since you guys are in the pilot stage now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's going to be, it's going to take, as I mentioned earlier on, it's going to take 45 to 60 to be, because it's just breaking habits. It's, but I'm seeing the savings myself in regards to the fact I go back to everything's in Teams, everything's right here, where I had things in 4 or 5 different places potentially. I'm dealing with outsource companies and when those kind of things, partnerships and things of that nature. Now it's residing in one place. It's going to be a real huge difference maker, and should have a great impact in regards to across the whole organization for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good to know our statistics are accurate. And I think, a lot of people, like they say, they don't understand that those 5-10 minutes, they're happening so much more frequently. And much like when we're young, we're taught the value of $1. As we go into corporate organizations, a lot of people kind of need to be reminded the value of a minute or 10 minutes, right? Because it's not always just the time, but it's also your brain having to switch between all those activities.
And I'll always say, you have to work hard, but you also have to work smart. And if you can combine that, that's the key, because it's not always the hardest worker. It's always the most successful. But you got to have the work ethic, right? But if you can work smarter and come up with a new way, and you're that much timely, you don't have to work 70 hours a week to do it. You don't. If you need a life balance as well. And I think that's an important point to help you achieve that goal, right?
Definitely.
So Brian, it's 8 o'clock Eastern. I have to be online at 8 o'clock, and I'm 4 minutes late already. So I'm going to leave you two, if you don't mind. Can we convene the conversation? You two stay on, but can we convene? I'd love to get back on with Mike here and have another conversation live, and kind of catch up. I know there's only a slide or two left, but I'm getting pinged to jump on there. So I didn't know it was going to go this long. So I'm going to drop off, guys. It was completely awesome, amazing. Let's get phase 2 in after, and I'll leave it to you from here.
You got it, Brandon. Have a great night, man. Thank you for joining us.
Brandon.
Yeah,
Take
you
care.
too, guys. Bye.
Perfect. Awesome. So Mike, no worries there. Like Brandon said, we're kind of getting through, and I think you just made a really good point, right? It's just these incremental improvements, again, empowering them to say, I realize I spend 20 minutes a day because I have to find my lead tasks over here, then find the lead, then send a doc. Is there any way we could streamline this, right? And it's those small incremental changes that really lead to the success, of the organization and continuing to transform the business. So with that, I'll kind of move us to our next slide. 1 second. There we go. My mouse pad is sticking for some reason. There we go. Oh, 1 second. Brandon leaves and the whole deck goes haywire.
We'll blame Brandon, right?
100%. Definitely. No, it's no problem. Okay, perfect. So the next one here, I'll just pull us in, it's really our last slide, right? As you've aligned the data, you focused on your customers to personalize their experiences. And of course, to fulfill all those new demands coming from your customers, you've empowered your employees with the tools or the channels to communicate, the ways that they feel the business can improve. Now you've really laid the foundation, right, to your organization and that core foundational infrastructure of technology and the overall processes. So the last bucket and the key driver where businesses are seeing a lot of success and why they're changing is digital innovation, right? And at the end of the day, digital innovations is transformation, and it's leading to a ton of changes and transformations across all aspects of the business and across every industry, right? So employees are obviously not the only ones benefiting from all this centralization of data, right? All these personalizations and everything that can be centralized and piped in. The machines themselves are improving, right? They're able to determine new relationships, new trends, and every month that goes by, there's more and more capabilities coming from Microsoft Dynamics, coming from standalone product companies, and then there's a lot more innovations that your company can leverage if they're aware to what they are, right? And the majority of those innovations, Mike, are in what we call the next generation technologies, right? So things that are such as AI, IoT, predictive analytics, and then all the sensors and the capabilities that are really starting to come out, they're all transforming the way that manufacturing, production, research, and customer experiences are held together, right? So when it comes from whether you're optimizing manufacturing processes to adapt to the changing customer needs, because you can actually read the demand of the entire supply chain or your partners, right? Or you're leveraging analytics to know when the machinery on your production line is falling down from performing optimally, and you can automatically create a maintenance ticket. Or we're using bots to improve service, right? So when customers come to your site to ask a question, it catalogs all the questions that have already been asked, all your blog articles, right? And gives them the information they may need, saving more volume from going to your customer service side, right? So essentially, this is the last step and key driver. But once we've got those 3 blocks in place, companies should really be starting to reinvest that time that they got back, right? Those money that they got back from saving the costs and the waste that were going out the door, and start investing in R&D, right? Because these are not things that you can just come off with and get right on the first try. This is digital innovation, so you're probably going to have to try multiple approaches, different use cases, and see which ones, are feasible and worth the money that it takes to put in to execute them. So when it comes to tension, Mike, I know you guys are in your current digital transformation. You're kind of getting this whole foundational play in piece. But have you guys discussed any key ways to apply some of these newer technologies in the future? Or have you seen any other companies, leveraging these tools where you feel your company could utilize them as well?
Yeah, great question. I mean, and a couple different things. Number one, I'll start with the fact that, but go back to the CRM and the Avante integration that we're utilizing. That's going to help us, across the board as an organization, right? We're going to be able to be that much more efficient so that we can now take data that's in a CRM as an example and put together multi-channel campaigns to do a better job of reaching out to our clients, better job of surveying, of just having a more unified and automated process to have these kind of outreaches, because you just need to continue to be doing that. And so this is going to allow us to do that much more efficiently, much quicker. We could, when something happens in the market, we can go out to our clients much more quickly. Correct. So Brandon brought up the fact early on this evening in regards to the price increases that are going, that's happening everywhere, right? Again, going back to how do we communicate just in time, being ahead of that curve and doing those kind of things. So this is going to help us in regards to that outreach to be much more effective. Number two is it's going to allow us, to your point, as we save money in one bucket, it's going to allow us to reinvest in our company and in our equipment and in our technology so that we can have a brand new press and some new equipment in place, be able to have more bandwidth because we can reinvest into the equipment or upgrade something that needs to be done, and continue to diversify with our long run work of doing the long run envelope work and coming up with unique solutions. I mean, there's something example being, so you have something here that's called the trailing edge, just a quick sample. But I mean, we reinvested our equipment so that we could do something like this in-house. So I mean, there's just so many different ways in regards to the fact of, that's the long-term solution. It's looking at your organization across the board. What could we be doing differently? Do we have the right structure in place for the future? All those things are being looked at because we're making the steps now which is truly digital transformation in regards to how we communicate, how we engage with our clients, how we manage our business day to day. And this Avante system is going to save time for administrators because they're going to be able to process orders much more quickly. It's going to get to the presses in a more timely fashion. We're going to be able to analyze the waste and the efficiency of certain machines that much quicker in a better sense and have real data. So it's really across the board within our organization that all these things and merging in and having that synergy together is just going to add value to every part of our business. So, that's what's exciting about it. And, as Brandon said, you have to continually be ahead of it. You can't fall behind. I don't care what industry you're in. And if you're not doing what you were the one that really authored this whole process of why this is so important. And, I've been happy to be a part of it because I think it's just so important for the future of any organization. And you're a great resource for that.
Definitely. No, and I appreciate, the kind words there, Mike. And like you said, I think, like you were saying, all this is centralizing your data. Then it's going to let you reinvest, and there's going to be constantly new ways. And the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is, things like AI, IoT, right? It also gives you even more data than you've had before. And as you get more and more data, there's only so much processing the human mind can do, right? So a lot of companies are leveraging AI just to better determine trends, right? Maybe you guys have, right, a textured envelope that has like a feel to it that I know is something some magazines do, right, as a premium copy. You have the loop off the end, right? And then you have a standard envelope. And maybe there's a way to have a basic, what your sticker is on that is an RFID chip. So we know when they're hitting different households, how many are open and how many ended up in the trash. And that would be a whole new way to actually measure waste, right? So I think I just wanted to give that example because when it comes to the digital innovation, once you have that foundation in place, it's really thinking like your company's in the Jetsons, area of the world and saying, what is something that sounds so out of box, so out of what we do, but can add a lot of value to the business if we were successful in doing it, right? And I think that's just how business have to think. They have to ask themselves those hard questions and essentially just continuously look at how can we reimagine the entire way we do our business, even when everything is performing well and continuing to grow. And I think that was just a really good anchor point of what you made, where you guys are doing that now, and you see plenty of opportunities as you get those data aligned and can move forward towards those next directions. So Mike, at the end of each one of these episodes, what we like to do is kind of bring everything back to the shell, like we did in the beginning, bring everything back to the high level and the macro, and just again, remind people why it's time for change. So some quick final statistics to leave the audience with would be 70% of companies either have a digital transfer strategy in place or they are working on one. 2 to 3 years ago, we would have seen this well below 50%. COVID has obviously accelerated these statistics. And I think really by the end of this year, you'll probably see this number up more towards the 80-85%. So it's not too late to start, but companies are aware you're going to have more competition. So the sooner you start, the better. The second stat is 87% of the companies think that digital will disrupt their industry, but only 44 of them are prepared for potential disruption. Right. So it shows that a lot of people are aware, but not a lot of people are reacting yet. Right. They're not being proactive. They think it might come, but they're dealing with other issues. And one day they may wake up and it's shown up. Right. And now you're going to have to react to a competitor who just spent the last year building a whole digital experience that even if you wanted to catch up is going to take 6 months. Right. So it's going to give you a very difficult challenge when it comes to the competition side. The last two are more just in regards to the success of transformations and where companies are seeing the impact. So it is worth the change. It's worth the money put in when the strategy is aligned properly. Executives say that the top benefits of digital transformation are improved operational efficiency, like we just covered, by empowering your employees. You'll drive productivity and you'll reduce costs. Faster time to market. At the end of the day, speed is everything. The faster you can move, the faster your team can see data, and the faster you can make decisions, the faster you can bring new offerings to your customers. And the last one is the ability to meet customer expectations. Much like we covered in depth, customer expectations are not dwindling down anytime soon. They're only going to keep growing. All right. So from there, a lot of companies are able to capitalize on those rather than seeing it as, a deterrent or a challenge that their customers are being too demanding. And lastly, the digital mature companies are 23% more profitable than the less mature peers, right? So Mike, this just gives us a nice high level of, where are companies standing? Where is their awareness? What do they think could happen if they don't transform, right? They are aware they can be disrupted. And then for those that are transforming, these are the benefits that they're experiencing. So I'm curious, again, we know tension is, in there, so we don't want to ask too many, personal questions, but we know, the productivity side is starting to show it. So how much of, from a cost perspective or maybe on the revenue growth side, no specific numbers, but what would your confidence level be in, where you're seeing you guys in this transformation now and the impact that you could foresee it having on the business in the upcoming months or by the end of the year?
Yeah, I think it's going to have a tremendous effect. I really do. Now, again, where the pilot example being with the CRM, we're 30 to 40 days into the process, and we're the first team to do that. It's going to be rolled out to the entire organization. But I see a tremendous impact for the balance of this year into 2022 for sure. I mean, it's just, as we've talked about today, I mean, there's just so many reasons why it's going to be impactful. It's just the fact of, having a central, repository of data to help yourselves go out and be more efficient and communicate and things of that nature. You're just going to be more efficient. You're just going to get in front of more people. You're going to be able to fine tune your message and in working with the variety of people such as marketing within our team or simply doing things, within the sales group itself. So it's going to have a huge impact in regards to where we're going. It's going to allow us to do more creative things. And I think it's one of those things of it's incorporating your core values of what you've always done well, which we've done for 135 years. That's not going away. That's what we've been so successful at. But you have to embrace your core values and what you do well, but also look at new ways to innovate, new ways to become more diverse, new ways to automate what you're doing, new ways to test things and what have you. So to me, that's the I'm fortunate with our organization. We have that capability. We've made the changes at the right pace. And I think it's just going to allow us to have a tremendous impact into not on the short term, but the long term, because we're going to be ahead of it. And at that point, it's going to allow us to do a lot more things that sometimes I don't think we know yet, to be frank with you, Brian, in regards to, wow, what else are we going to be able to do with this repository and with this technology in aligning everybody much more efficiently. So it's really exciting times. And using the venue that we used tonight, it just allows you to do things quicker in some cases, have more conversations, have some real great dialogue, and still important to jump on a plane and have a face-to-face meeting, but this is a great way because things happen so quickly in today's market that you have to be able to adapt and change and move quickly. And I think all the things that we're doing will help us get there, and very excited at what that's going to do. And I know that everything that you're doing from your perspective is helping people get there on the track, or, making the case why they need to. So, I know that you're extremely supportive in regards to making those things happen.
Definitely. No, and I appreciate that, Mike. I think you made some really good points, right? A lot of people always think that there's supposed to be a light at the end of the tunnel, right? There is for the phase that you're in, but digital transformation is always ongoing. New technologies are going to come out, new ideas are going to come from your team, and there's always going to be that way to keep innovating. So I think that was an extremely good point, that you made there at the end, Mike. And I think, much like Brandon said, we'd love to have you come back on, maybe once the first phase of this transformation is complete, and we can talk about some of the outcomes, the challenges, et cetera. But again, I really just wanted to thank you for coming on to today's episode. We're just going to wrap some things up. The last slide here is just where everybody can access the information. Again, today's episode was with Mike Desmarais from Tension Corp. He's the East Coast Regional Sales Manager. He's very open. So if you have any questions, any needs around direct marketing, just questions around strategy, or just want to connect with him, all of his information is on our website, which is go.incipient.com /how to define your digital journey. So please head to the website, check out the social posts for comments, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Mike, thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it. And I'm losing the lights in the last 2 seconds, so it must be good timing.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me. It was a great time, and I look forward to the follow-up. So thanks again.
You got it, Mike. Take care. Thank you again. Take care.